Between the rise of populist right-wing politicians, a failure to meaningfully address the climate crisis, and a further rolling back of workers' rights, in some respects, it's been a rough 21st century for left-wingers. But there is hope. Henry Kissinger, Margaret Thatcher, Silvio Berlusconi, and Osama bin Laden have all died since 2000. I jest, of course. Not that they've died, that much is true. Fear not, you can rest assured that they are all very much dead. But in alluding to left-wing politics at the beginning of a video, which is very clearly about left-wingers in football, it is the exact same tired old joke that I made at the start of the video about the 7 greatest right-wingers since 2000, but it has been so long since that came out that I figured that most of you had probably forgotten. Until I just reminded you myself. It has been 7 weeks since I uploaded that video, to be precise, which clearly caused some of you to think that I might have forgotten about it. I mean, this comment from Silius Sodus, itself over 3 weeks ago, suggesting that the delay was because I was trying to find a Hull City player that I could justify including, got more than 600 likes. That is, of course, an outrageous suggestion. I'd have had to wait at least 5 years before I could justify including Jadon Philogene, and I'm not sure how many of you will still be watching me by then. Incidentally, my favourite Hull City player growing up was a left-winger, Stuart Elliott, though it would be fair to say that he most assuredly isn't left-wing, in the sense that I jokingly alluded to at the beginning of this video, in any way, shape or form. No, I'm afraid that I can't justify including any Hull City players, just as I can't justify why it has taken me so long to get round to uploading the next part in this series, or why I've rambled on for this long in the introduction. You know the drill by now, and if you don't, go back to the 7 greatest goalkeepers since 2000 and binge-watch the entire series. No, seriously, please do. Players are featured only in the positions, though, that they played in most frequently since 2000, and inclusions are based solely upon the quality and quantity of a player's performances during the 21st century. David Ginola, for example, was a wonderfully gifted left-winger who played during the 2000s and was as good as almost anyone at his peak, but couldn't possibly feature given that he retired in 2002, meaning he played fewer than 70 matches post-2000. Likewise, Vinicius Jr. is a brilliant player now, and may well go down as one of the millennium's greatest left-wingers in a decade's time, but right now he's only 23 years old, and has played just over 300 games, which is incredible for his age, by the way, but still isn't enough to crack the top 7 just yet. Without further ado then, who wasn't a left-winger and tragically never fulfilled his potential, so, spoiler alert, won't be featuring in any position in this series, here are, in my view, which naturally means that it is indisputably true, which is why there will be no debates or disagreements whatsoever down below in the comments, the 7 greatest left-wingers in world football since 2000. 7th, Sadio Mane. This is slightly unusual timing, because Sadio Mane is a man in the news right now, though not for his talents on the pitch. Mane, age 31, is reported to have just married his long-term 19-year-old girlfriend at a secret ceremony in Senegal.
I dunno, I think that's a bit dodgy, mate.
Mane allegedly began courting his new wife, Aisha Temba, when she was just 16 years old, which, you know, isn't that long term, while keeping the relationship secret until their marriage. That is according to Sports Brief and Mail Sport. There have been other reports claiming that she is 26, but it seems as though they have since been disproven, and she is indeed 19. I'd say that it is sussy at best and criminal at worst, but as I said, the sole criteria for this series is the quality and quantity of a player's performances since 2000, not the dubiousness of their personal lives, otherwise the entire thing would look very different. On the pitch, Mane's career has been a remarkable rags-to-riches tale. Having come through the youth ranks at Generation Foot, he began life in Europe with Metz's B team in the 4th tier of French football, departing for Red Bull Salzburg after Metz's first team were relegated from Ligue 2. From Salzburg, Mane joined Southampton, but it is his 6 seasons at Liverpool that constitutes his peak and the primary reason why he gets us started in this 7, ahead of several other distinguished left-wingers. I must admit, when Liverpool paid £34 million to sign Mane, rising to £36 million subject to add-ons in 2016, I thought that was probably the upper end of what he was worth. How wrong I was. Not only did Mane score 120 goals and make 48 assists during his time at Anfield, they actually managed to sell him at 30 for almost the same price that they had signed him for at 24. It would be fair to say that Mane wasn't as good of a signing for Bayern Munich, but thankfully, the Saudis were on hand to sign him for almost as much as they paid for him as well. At his peak, Mane was almost unstoppable at times. So dynamic and direct, while Salah was always the star of Liverpool's famed front three, Mane routinely produced equally pivotal goals and moments. Quick, tireless, and capable of scoring goals with either foot or his head, Mane won the Premier League and the Champions League at Liverpool, making 4 appearances in the PFA Team of the Year in the process. He won the 2021 AFCON, is a 2-time African Footballer of the Year, and, most notably of all of course, he's now won an Arab Club Champions Cup as well. Combine all of that with the fact that Mane's entire career, all 635 appearances to date, have come post-2000, and it is just, and I really do mean just enough, to see him get us started, despite having a new wife who was born after his hairline had already begun receding. 6th, Ryan Giggs. Look, alright, as I said, the criteria isn't the moral dubiousness of a player's personal life. I really can't reiterate that enough at several stages throughout this video. Obviously, Ryan Giggs was a phenomenal left winger, left-sided midfielder, and later deep-lying playmaker or central midfielder. In fact, as a left winger, I'd say that only the top 3 players in this 7 can even hold a candle to him. So why is he only in 6th? Well, put simply, Giggs turned 27 in 2000 and he made his Manchester United first team debut in 1991. That means that 8.5 whole seasons, during which time Giggs played over 400 matches, won 16 trophies, including the Continental Treble, and made 2 of his 6 PFA Team of the Year inclusions, have to be excluded. Under any ordinary circumstances, on that basis alone, Giggs wouldn't have a hope in hell of featuring in this series. And yet, the fact that he played into his 40s, and he didn't just play, he played 32 times in a Premier League title-winning Manchester United team in his penultimate season as a 40-year-old, means that Giggs still did enough post-2000, for my money at least, to earn an inclusion in 6th. Not long into the 2000s, and certainly after turning 30, Giggs had to adapt his own game from being a quick and tricky menace on the left flank into being a more functional left-sided midfield player before gradually coming more and more central. He may well be a terrible human being, but as with so many players who enjoy great longevity, I think that Giggs' talents are routinely underplayed. It wasn't just that he played 934 games for Manchester United during an era in which they dominated English football, winning 13 Premier League titles over a 20-year time span. Giggs was also, arguably, the star of the so-called class of '92. Undoubtedly the most highly regarded during his teens, Giggs was the first to be called up into the first team. He was considered to be Manchester United's star man, probably from about 1997 onwards, after Eric Cantona's retirement, for at least the next 6 or 7 years, and, on the pitch at least, he never let his standards drop. So gifted, so disciplined, and so intelligent, again, I can't stress this enough, on the pitch, I mean, Giggs was a dream for Sir Alex Ferguson, who named him as one of only 4 definitively world-class players that he ever managed, alongside Cantona, Ronaldo and Scholes. If his entire career came post-2000, he would make the top 3. As it is, still with over 500 post-2000 appearances in the bank, he deservedly takes 6th. 5th, Son Heung-min. Easy to overlook in a list or series of this ilk, Son Heung-min may still only be 31, he may have won fewer trophies than Ryan Giggs did in an average season, and he might have never been the poster boy of the Premier League or even of Tottenham, at least prior to this season, following Harry Kane's departure, but on quality and quantity of appearances, which is the stated criteria, he becomes very difficult to overlook. Son is just a brilliant all-round forward. He can play on the left or through the middle, either as a 9, 10 or false 9. He works tirelessly and presses relentlessly, and he is technically superb, whether that be on the ball, in the pass, or when striking at goal. It's a very useful combination, and it's one that has resulted in Son scoring a tremendous 222 goals and making 99 assists in 591 games at club level for Hamburg, Bayer Leverkusen and Tottenham, in addition to scoring 41 goals from 117 caps for South Korea, where he is practically a deity, never mind just a poster boy. What's more, I say that Son has never been the Premier League or maybe until now Tottenham's poster boy, and that is true, but don't forget that he won the 2021-22 Premier League Golden Boot jointly with Mohamed Salah, and he won the Tottenham Player of the Season award 3 times, which is a quite frankly remarkable achievement during the Harry Kane era. Since the Best Footballer in Asia award launched in 2013, Son HeungMin has won it 8 times, meanwhile players not called Son HeungMin have won it a combined total of 2 times. That's absurd. So Son takes 5th. 4th, Franck Ribery. Honestly, I don't know what it is with footballers who played or who play on the left wing, but some of the best of them really do have blotted copybooks. Ribery, of course, in 2010, was indicted by a judge alongside Karim Benzema for solicitation of a minor prostitute. At the time of the alleged crime, Benzema was 21 and Ribery was 26. The girl involved, Zahia De Gea, was only 16, which is the age of consent in France, but prostitution is only legal from the age of 18. Ribery and Benzema admitted to having paid for sex with De Gea, who was 10 years Ribery's junior, but the two were eventually acquitted in 2014 after a court concluded that they were unaware that Zahia was underage. Again, this series, I cannot reiterate it enough, isn't a moral assessment. On the pitch, Ribery is an interesting player to assess. On the one hand, he was touted as Zinedine Zidane's heir apparent following the 2006 World Cup as a genuinely world-class prospect who could inspire France to major trophies just like Zizou. Ultimately, that final in 2006 alongside Zidane was by far the closest that Ribery ever came to tasting international success, enduring more scandals than trophies. France went out in the group stage at Euro 2008 and at the 2010 World Cup. He was uninspiring at Euro 2012, and he missed the 2014 World Cup through injury. After his international retirement in 2014, France reached the final of the next 2 major tournaments, winning the 2018 World Cup. On the flip side, Ribery had a magnificent club career, the majority of it, 12 years, spent at Bayern Munich. Incredibly gifted, Ribery was a joy to watch, capable of jinking past fullbacks for fun, and equally adept at scoring and creating goals. He came 3rd in 2013 Ballon d'Or voting, after winning a continental treble at Bayern, trailing only Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Ribery had a very hard time with injuries, particularly after turning 30, but he still managed to make 715 appearances at club level, all post-2000 of course, plus 81 caps for France, and they were of a sufficient standard that I think he deserves to take 4th, and only narrowly misses out on our podium. 3rd, Eden Hazard. Franck Ribery was an exceptional footballer who had a majestic trophy-laden club career, but the top 3 of this 7 were or are a class above the rest. Sadly, it is a were in the case of Eden Hazard, despite the fact that he only just turned 33 years old. Hazard retired at the end of last season, age 32, and, in truth, has played very little football and looked a shadow of his former self whenever he did, since his 2019 transfer to Real Madrid when he was only 28 years old. I think Hazard is one of only probably 2 or maybe 3 footballers who, had they really wanted to, and had they been blessed with a bit of good fortune, could have rivaled Messi and Ronaldo during an era dominated by those 2. The truth, however, is that Hazard was never as ruthless, efficient, dedicated, or hard-working as either Messi or Ronaldo, and whilst that is often held up as being a bad thing, everyone has different priorities. So for Messi and Ronaldo, that might have been trophies, goals, Ballon d'Ors, accolades, but for Hazard, it was Burger King. Hazard has spoken openly about this in the past, and though he could have achieved more, had greater longevity, and probably avoided a lot of the injuries that he suffered after signing for Real Madrid, it's important to focus on what, despite all of those things, Hazard still managed to achieve. A wizard with a ball at his feet and an obvious superstar right from his debut at Lille, Hazard inspired Lille to an unlikely Ligue 1 and Coupe de la Ligue double in the 2010-11 season as a 20-year-old. And after successive Ligue 1 Player of the Year awards at only 21, he had the pick of just about any club in Europe. He chose Chelsea, the reigning European champions, and over the entire span of his 7 seasons at Stamford Bridge, I don't think that there was a better player in the Premier League. Certainly, none won more Man of the Match awards. Injuries and a very early retirement conspired to limit Hazard to just 635 club appearances and 126 caps for Belgium, despite making a very early start. But the quality and quantity of his performances, prior to his last 76 at Real Madrid at least, are enough to see him take a very deserved bronze medal. Second, Neymar. As good as Eden Hazard was, I don't think that he ever could have been as good as Neymar. The second most gifted player of his generation, as far as I'm concerned, there haven't been many people in the entire history of football who have been able to do the things that Neymar can with a ball at his feet. A boy wonder at Santos, Neymar hadn't even turned 16 yet, or made his first team debut, when the comparisons with Pelé began. That's a poison chalice that has swallowed up several supposed wonder kids over the years, but Neymar was always different. Whilst he might not be Pelé, that is an almost impossible standard, Neymar has been Brazil's star man virtually his entire career, and he has exceeded Pelé in one respect at least, becoming Brazil's all-time leading goalscorer. Neymar has scored 79 goals in 128 games for Brazil, and at club level, he has struck 360 times, in addition to making more than 200 assists in 589 appearances. In other words then, Neymar has averaged 1 goal contribution per game virtually his entire career, on top of being one of the most elaborate and skillful players on the planet. Neymar's 589 club appearances is actually quite a lot for a 31-year-old, but it is heavily skewed towards his early years. Following his world record-breaking move to PSG, which made him, and indeed still makes him, the most expensive footballer of all time, Neymar averaged less than 29 games a season and less than 19 in the league. And since joining Al Hilal in the Saudi Pro League, he has unfortunately ruptured his ACL. Nonetheless, by almost any metric, whether that be ability, peak, or indeed the actual criteria, quality and quantity of appearances, Neymar couldn't come anywhere other than second. 0. Honourable mentions. I promise to be brief, but it would be remiss of me not to, as always, give a quick shout out to some very honourable mentions. Players who missed out primarily by virtue of being too old and not having freakish longevity like Ryan Giggs, despite being brilliant footballers, include the likes of Pavel Nedved and Robert Pires. Meanwhile, Harry Kewell might have had a shot if he was both a little bit younger and hadn't been quite so blighted by injuries. Those who are too young, or more to the point, have played slightly too few games yet to feature, include Leroy Sané and Vinicius Jr., and others who made my shortlist but just missed out on the final 7 include the likes of Willian, Dries Mertens, Stefan El Shaarawy, Ashley Young, Nani, Dimitri Payet, Florent Malouda, Dusan Tadic, Wilfred Zaha, Kingsley Coman, and, perhaps most notably of all, Raheem Sterling. In case any of you were wondering, because I was when I began researching this, Kylian Mbappe has played more games as a centre-forward, or at least in a central attacking role, than he has done on the left wing, and he will therefore only be considered for the centre-forward video rather than this one. And now for the small matter of an extremely predictable top spot. First, Cristiano Ronaldo. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo is the greatest left winger since 2000. In fact, the only caveat, or doubt that there could be over that fact, is whether he had played more games through the middle or on the left, but unlike in the case of Mbappe, Ronaldo played, or has played, more games on the left than anywhere else. It feels a little bit unnecessary justifying this, or giving the 1 millionth synopsis of Cristiano Ronaldo's career, but I'll give it a stab nonetheless. Ronaldo actually made his name at Manchester United on the right wing, becoming not just the best right winger, but the best player in the Premier League, at least in his last 2 seasons at the club. In his debut campaign at Real Madrid, after becoming the most expensive footballer on the planet, Ronaldo played predominantly through the middle, yet it would be by far his lowest scoring season at the Bernabeu. It is worth pointing out that in, by far, Ronaldo's worst goal-scoring season in Madrid, he still scored 33 goals. Jose Mourinho arrived in the summer of 2010 and, for the first time, Ronaldo began playing regularly on the left flank, though always coming inside and looking to shoot on goal. Towards the end of his time in Madrid, Ronaldo had started to come central once again as his ability to run in behind and beat players began to wane, but the left channel remained and still remains a favourite of his to exploit. Basically the perfect inclusion in this series. Ronaldo's career began in 2002, he is still playing in 2024, on the verge of turning 39, and he has played over 1,000 games at club level, exhibiting abnormal consistency levels throughout that time, scoring 745 goals and making over 230 assists, in addition to scoring 128 goals from 205 caps for Portugal, which makes him the record goal scorer and appearance holder in the history of men's international football. Hopefully that justifies his position in top spot then, for the maybe 3 people watching this who might have had even an ounce of doubt about it. And after all of the problematic and morally dubious left wingers that have featured in this video, it sure is nice to have someone who's never been credibly accused of anything like that in top spot. Wait. What? Oh, for crying out loud. Well, anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you all very much, as ever, for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And of course, goes without saying, make sure that you're subscribed and have notifications turned on for both this channel, HITC Sevens, and also my second channel, Alfie Potts Harmer, both of which should be on or about to appear on your screens now, along with a couple of videos that you might fancy watching after this one. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads via the username at HITC Sevens on all 3, and all of those links plus a whole lot more, should you be interested, should be down in the video description below. Cheers.